Hi, everybody. My name is Gina Wariebi, owner of Innovative Edge Processing, founder of Mortgage Processing Revolution, and your processing advocate. And I would like to welcome you to a new episode of The Power of a Processor, where we talk about all things mortgage processing related, from topics such as problem solving to stress to how to even deal with setting proper expectations. We are here to talk shop. Let's jump into today's topic, communication. I cannot stress enough to you how important this skill is to have as a processor. And to help me with today's topic, I would like to introduce you to my guest, Michelle Hewitt, Processing Manager of Willow Processing. Hello, Michelle. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Before we get into the topic of communication, I would like to find out a little bit about how you became a processor.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been in the industry a little over 20 years. I started through a temp agency when I lived out in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was brought in as a front office staff for a little
Okay.
lender and got pulled to the back calling on collections, which wasn't so much fun. And then got moved over to another lender basically and became the processor or internal person for an account executive. And I would travel all over the country talking to different broker shops, and it just kind of morphed from there. I found my sweet spot with processing though.
Nice. So it seems like you have done several different positions in here and landed into processing. It's not like you said, I want to be a processor when I grow up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I have my own NMLS. I have my DRE, which is actually kind of a funny story. I didn't mean to get my DRE, but I took the
Yep.
test. It gets you both of them.
Okay.
So I've done that as well. But I really found my happy place with processing. I love the puzzle solving part of it.
Awesome. And let's just jump right into the topic today is the topic of communication. Now, when I was speaking to you previously, this seems to be your passion. Why is communication your passion?
I I feel like it's what makes the world go round. I've been married 24 years. I met my husband when I was 17 and I'm gonna be 44
Mhm.
tomorrow. And without communication,
Yay.
thank you. Without communication, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I think that plays a lot into
Absolutely.
professional role as well with processing. I really feel like there's three things. It's called like the three P's of communication. You've got your pairing, personality and pairing, perspective, and preparation. Those are the three top parts of communication that I think are super important.
Communication definitely makes this world go round, not just in this industry, but like you said, in personal experiences and in life in general. Now, okay, the three P's of communication, can you explain it a little bit to me? What are they? What are the three P's? Let's start with that.
Yeah, so the first P is actually two. It's personality and pairing. We here over at Willow, part of what we do is we talk to loan officers. We find out where they're from, kind of their personality, and we pair them with a processor over here.
Nice.
And yeah, we get to know the processors really well. So we know what their strengths are. We know what their weaknesses are. We're very honest about the fact that we're human and there are weaknesses.
Absolutely.
So maybe somebody is a lot better at really digging in and pushing back on those loan office or on those underwriters for conditions where maybe somebody might not be as strong at that because they don't have the experience. So we really take into consideration who they're going to be paired with, because if you
That's a
don't,
great idea. I like that.
yeah, if you don't have the right personality or pairing, you're setting yourself up for failure at the get-go. So that's the first
Absolutely.
one.
All
The
right. And the
second,
next P goes to,
perspective. Really taking a moment to walk in everybody's shoes. I know
oh,
because I've processed for so long that we really get the short end of the stick, that we are going to be the first ones who get backed up on that bus. It's always our fault. So I know it's hard a lot of the time to take the perspective of the loan officer or the broker or even maybe the underwriter or the real estate agent. And I know it might be a little taboo to be for me to be saying this, but it really makes a big difference when you are putting yourself in the shoes of somebody who is relying on that loan closing to pay their mortgage payment,
yes,
you know? Um,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's just you just have to take that perspective. So maybe when your loan officer calls you and you didn't get that clear to close right away, and they brought up another condition, well, that's not your fault that the underwriter found a new condition to throw on there. Don't take that personally. Just
No,
know that they're frustrated and you're a teammate of theirs. And so they're going to be venting that frustration to you. And so I think if you can take the edge off of it a little bit being personal to you, I think that makes a huge difference
I
with
think
loan.
that is, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think that is a really important thing to say because we don't know what the person on the other end of that phone call or that Zoom meeting or the email or text, we don't know what's going on in their lives at that moment. So
Yep.
they could be coming at you really strong and emotional, and you got to take a step back and say, oh, okay, wait a minute, something might be going on in their life that really isn't anything to do with me,
Yeah,
but it's
exactly.
affecting how they talk to me. It's affecting how they're relying on their life right now. Something's happening, and like you said, you have to learn to take that and internalize it without letting it affect you and your business.
Yeah, exactly. And not to say to allow them to walk all over you or be rude or
True.
disrespectful or whatever. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm not saying let them walk all over you. I'm just saying in the moment, take
Yep.
it in to get the job done. And then maybe afterwards, maybe after the loan closes, say, hey, Mr. Loan Officer, you remember back when this happened? I really didn't feel great about the way that we communicated. Maybe there's another way that we can figure out when things get to this point again that we have a better style of communication.
I
One of the
love that.
one of the things you kind of pointed on was you said phone call. And I
Yep.
honestly believe, and everybody at Willow believes, that if you're not picking up the phone and you're not calling your loan officer, you're kind of doing your job at half speed. I know it's really easy sometimes to just sit behind a keyboard and send off, especially if things are not going to go great. But if
Yeah.
you pick up the phone, people are going to appreciate it because they're going to hear a voice. They're going to know that you're not coming at them from frustration or anger. They're going to hear it in your tone. When you type an email, they'll always read it in whatever mood they're in. So if they're in a really bad mood, they can take whatever you've said, even if it was the kindest thing, and just hear it in a negative way. So picking up that phone is so important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
let's talk. Okay, so we talked about perspective. Let's talk about the third P you say.
Yeah, preparation, knowing what's going on with the file and your tasks and what you're talking about before you even call. It limits the amount of time that you're on the phone. It limits the amount of time that you need to communicate what it is you're trying to communicate, and to be really intentional with your words. That's something that I teach my 3 kids, is to be intentional with your words. Try not to move too much emotion into it. So you know what's going on. One of the things we really love to do here at Willow is to give a pipeline review of Friday. Say, hey, Mr. Loan Officer, here are
Absolutely.
your 6 files, ding, 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 ding. And here is what we're working on. So that way they have it in writing, but you can also pick up the phone and just call them and say, here's where we are on this one, this one, this one, this one. It's really important to be precise in your words with them because, loan officers, they can hear what they want to hear. So if you're intentional,
Very
uh,
true. Same with borrowers. Same with
yeah,
borrowers.
same with borrowers
Absolutely.
for sure. Yeah,
Absolutely. And there's
exactly.
something about knowing exactly where your file is at that moment to know that you're trusting your file with that processor, and that processor here, by doing that pipeline review, they know everything that's going on, and then they can sit back and relax, go out and do more of what they're really good at, and that's sales,
Yep.
which then will bring you more files, which then you can communicate. But I want to go back and touch really quickly on what you just said. Can you please clarify for me what you mean by prepping? Are you talking about the borrower or are you talking about the loan officer? Or are you talking about both?
Both. I think communication and being prepared goes over, both aspects of it, both the loan officer and the borrower. When we call our loan officers, we let them know what the conditions are. We go over them in detail, but we also call their client. We maintain that communication because we feel
Okay.
like it kind of stops that game of telephone. I understand there's situations where loan officers are like, hey, this is my buddy from high school. I just want to maintain communication, or this is my mom, or whatever it
Yep.
might be. But for the most part, you really should encourage your loan officer to relinquish that control so that you can communicate directly with the borrower. And then when you call your borrower, we even have a script here at Willow that we use when we bring on new processors to work with us. We don't train processors, but we train them in the best way to communicate with clients. And one of the ways we do is we call them, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Borrower. My name is, Michelle. I work with loan officer X over at brokerage X. Do you have 5 minutes to go over your loan approval? And most of the times they say, yeah, because you never know. They might be buckling in a kid. They might be at the grocery store. You never know what the
At
situation is.
work.
Always, yeah, at work. So we always, again, are intentional and say, hey, this is who I am. This is why I'm calling. Do you have 5 minutes? And if they say yes, we go over in borrower language, not copy paste condition
Oh,
underwriter language, in borrower language, because it's easy enough to say, hey, I need a March bank statement. Okay,
yep.
March bank statement. But the loan or the borrowers are going to be like, well, here's 4 or 5 pages. Oh, I didn't give you the fifth page because it's blank. Why would you need that? So when we're
Yep.
going for the conditions with them, we tell them we need from this account with this account number, we need to have a bank statement, all pages, even if the last one's blank, no, blackout on your account, no blackout on any of your charges. I promise I'm not judging you if
Yep.
you Chick-fil-A 10 times a week. I don't care. um, so yeah, we're very intentional and clear on the communication with the clients as well, because then that will then feed into your loan officer having trust with you, which is really all to say, all this communication is to build that trust. Because if they
Absolutely.
trust you, they're going to be out of the processing room. And which is what I always tell the loan officers. I'm like, get out of the processing room. Let us do what we do best. And you go out there, like you said, Gina, and sell. That's what you do best. The more you sell, the more loans you get, the more we all make and the more fun we can have on our vacations, or we can pay our mortgage payments, or we can, go out to dinner. So go out there and
Absolutely.
do and let us do what we do. So the communication just builds that trust. It really does.
Okay, I got another question for you then. How do you communicate with your loan officers that the best thing for them would be to relinquish all rights to you? Like when they submit a file to you, you take it and run with it. I know a lot of loan officers have some trust issues with that, as well as I would too, being a prior loan officer. But how do you communicate that it's actually better for them to just hand the file over to you and let you take it and run with it versus them stay in touch with the client while you're doing the back end stuff?
It's a process. They're not going to trust you right off the gate. And you, as much
Yep.
as you want to communicate that, hey, if you trust me, we're going to get this done. It's a stepping stone, really. You have to build that with them. And one of the ways that we do it is we introduce Slack into our communication. It's a program. We invite our loan officers to the channel, and that way they have what I
Mhm.
call a bat phone to their processor. Not only can they, instant message them, they can video call them. That way they see a
Okay.
face. We're huge on video calls with our loan officers because, again, it's nice to hear a voice over the phone, but it's also really nice to see a face, because now they say, oh, that voice has a face. It's a real person.
Yes.
It's human with emotions that, maybe I shouldn't be so mean to them sometimes.
Nice
Uh,
idea.
yeah, so that's one of the things that we do. I don't know if a lot of other companies out there are doing it.
I've
It's
actually not heard of that.
Yeah, yeah. I think Willow is probably one of the only ones out there. But you know, with communication, it's not a set it and forget it. Good leaders are constantly inspiring, and I'm always on Monday mornings calling, talking to our team and telling them, the perspective of the loan officer, inspiring them to feel good about what they're doing and communicating with their clients, and the best way to do those things. And the other way to get your loan officer to start trusting you is to CC them on communication. And
Absolutely.
it's a lot easier the way that we do it with our Willow portal. We have an automation. So the more automations that we set in our systems, where we have emails, congratulations, your disclosures are out, please pay attention, or congratulations, your appraisal's been ordered, please pay attention for a link that's coming over, or hey, your CD's on its way. We have a lot of automations built into our system, which make it super easy and super fast for our processors to make that communication. And the loan officer is CC'd on it automatically. So it's not even necessarily you having to call them at every step and say, okay, appraisal's been ordered, this has been ordered, this has been ordered, because you don't necessarily want to do that. When you've got 20 files in your pipeline, that's all the
Absolutely.
status updates.
You
But
can
this,
spend your entire day doing status updates
oh
depending on
yeah,
how many loans you have on your desk.
Exactly, exactly. So the automation is a lot easier when it comes to those smaller milestones, but they're still CC'd on it. So the
Okay.
more that you communicate on that first, second, third file with your loan officer, the less you're going to have to as you go forward, because they're going to say, oh, well, I remember on file 1, 2, and 3, she did this, and I trust that she's going to be doing it on this next one as well. So it's really about building the trust with communication
Absolutely.
and explaining to them again, like, back to your original question, is just letting them know, hey, I know we're new. This is a new relationship. We're going to figure it out together. This is what I'm going to do up front. And, we can change our communication style and our expectations as we move along and as we build that trust.
Absolutely. Well, I have one final question for you, Michelle. What do you see as the future role of processing and wholesale? If you were to sit here and say 5 years from now, where do you see the future of processing?
Oh, that's a good question. I know that there's some lenders out there that are making it really difficult for contract and independent processors to do their job. They're building a lot of it internally, kind of like the way that I see supermarkets nowadays, where you do that self-checkout versus having
Yes.
a person there. Unfortunately, I see a lot of it going that way. But what I hope is that as we continue to grow as processors, build our communication and build the reputation of independent third-party companies out there, that loan officers are going to realize that automation, that self-checkout is definitely not worth it, because they're not going to have the communication from the computer or from that internal person who has 50 files from a bunch of loan officers that they've never built that
Yeah.
relationship. So I think the future really relies on us building relationships with loan officers and standing out in front of the companies that are building those automations, because that personal touch, I'm telling you, is gonna make or break us as processors.
That personal touch really goes a long way.
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here today.
Yeah.
And please don't forget to shoot me an email at gina@innovativeedgeprocessing.com for any questions, comments, concerns, or even some subject ideas. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Hey, what's your secret? You got the kind of that leaves me speechless. It could be model multitasking genius. Yeah, you got it all. Hey, what's your story?